Star Wars has been nothing more than a disaster since Disney bought it. But there has been one shining star amongst a galaxy of black holes. In other words, one thing that didn't suck. The new Jedi games have been the only original content that I have been impressed by. The amount of focus on characterization and character development has been nothing short of a miracle, given the overproduced, underdeveloped garbage we've been getting time after time from movies and TV shows. I can confidently say that I actually like these games due to the fact that they are very much a spiritual successor to the original trilogy. I made a video about how Fallen Order follows the hero's journey formula verbatim, and I laid out all the steps. Given that A New Hope is essentially the quintessential film example of Joseph Campbell's narrative outline, I had to wonder if the sequel to a game that followed that formula would be very much the Empire Strikes Back of these games. It was very much that and more, if I'm being honest. I did not expect the depth of emotional layers and themes of maturity to pop quite as potently as they did. If Jedi Fallen Order is a coming-of-age story, then Jedi Survivor is very much a story about adulthood. The concepts of love, loss, betrayal, and cherishing lasting friendships really emotionally resonate with the player. There are some strange directions with where these concepts go in terms of the plot and how they get there, but overall it's an incredibly solid story that feels miles ahead on the originality spectrum than anything that's come out under Disney's thumb. Respawn has definitely outdone themselves in creating a story that has real passion in the form of creating characters that feel like real people. So let's revisit Cal's journey once again, but this time diving into his true dark night of the soul. Oh, also, by the way, I'm going to be spoiling the whole game, so if you care about that, you might want to click off the video until you actually play it. In the video I made about Fallen Order, I broke down the basic concepts of the story into the development of the hero's journey. So it is appropriate that Survivor highlights the key points of that journey right from the start. We start with the fate of the Elixir, aka the Jedi Holocron with the location of the young Jedi around the galaxy, being shattered in a subversion of returning with the Elixir, the final step of the 12 steps of the hero's journey. This is the starting point for Cal's journey into the new unknown of his independent journey to reimagine the philosophies of the Jedi in a new context and become the master of his own destiny. We get a reminder of the fear he had of being alone and how he has found a family to fill that hole and how they helped him to rise above hardship and failure. Right off the bat, we get a return to the Jedi Temple and the city at the center of the transitioning point of the Jedi Order. We are visually shown that Cal has moved on from a life of running from his fear, but instead he comes face to face with the root of his problems. This is framed in a way making us assume he is forced into this situation by his enemies, but we see a confidence about him that is obviously the result of his growth. We get a reminder of the ruthless overreach of the Empire that we saw in the first game, through the character of Senator Sejan, and how, if anything, the conflict Cal faces is more imposing than ever. As a quick tangent, I want to say that the small details in this game also pop out in level design, and this grabbed my attention when you stumble across some stormtroopers talking about a local noodle spot that is apparently super fire, and later in that level you come across the said noodle spot. The design makes the experience not only more immersive, but is an obvious callback to the old Jedi Knight games, where you come across trooper casual conversations all the time right before you dice them into bits. There are obviously more examples of the developers calling back to these experiences and playing up that dynamic later too. But I want to praise the team for adding little things like this to make the world feel more alive as you traverse it. In an instant twist, however, we see that the resistance to the Empire has grown more intelligent as well, and that Cal's captors are actually rebels against the Empire, and a team he has built up to face the industrial monster. The main character of interest in this party of new companions is introduced to us saving Cal's life from this machine in the form of Bode, a jetpack and blaster sporting mercenary. This will be the start of Cal's most developed relationship with a new character, and even creates a companion gameplay situation that gives us time to bond with this new personality. We learn that Bode is in the fight to create a better future for his daughter, after he lost his wife to the Empire. This creates a mutual point of reference in their relationship, and a shared conflict. Both men have obviously experienced loss, and are fighting for a better tomorrow. We furthermore get a look at Cal's team of misfits, and what we can only assume is years of off-screen development. The playful banter between these characters gives you an instant investment, because Cal is invested, and we have followed him through many things already. It kind of feels like meeting a friend of a close friend at a party, and because you trust the judgment of your close friend, you are interested in how the relationship with these new characters will develop. This trust that the main character has is reinforced as the team helps you gain access to the Senator's ship one step at a time. As they confront the Senator, we get to see Cal's growth in his abilities as he mind tricks the official into doing his bidding. When Cal gets a glimpse of the scope of the Imperial's knowledge of the Republic forces' locations, he confronts and speaks to the cowardly submission of the Utapowian leader, giving his people over to the machine. The Senator then states,
"Why fight when you can't win?"
This sets up one of the central questions that the game asks, and visually is setting up a core conflict against Cal's morals throughout the story. We then get one final chance to talk to our new team, building an expectation of relational development like we got to experience with all the side characters in the last game. Then the harsh realities of war quickly rip that away from the player, as all members of your crew, except the main side character of interest, Bode, is violently ripped from you. You also come face to face with an old representation of the people that took everything from Cal in the form of the surviving ninth sister, who does not stay surviving for long. Cal notably says,
"It's time to set you free,"
before cutting her down. Given her history as one of his kind in the form of a Jedi, this is also foreshadowing of the coming conflicts Cal will face. The concepts of loss and treachery are given to us all in the first hour or so of this game, and looking back on it creates the narrative foundation for what is to come. We then get to reflect on the old relationships from the first game, and it makes one wonder where all these old family members of Cal have been in his life up until this point. In an attempt to contact old friends, Cal comes across a space anomaly close to one of his old friends' planets. Meeting new faces and new environments on the planet Kobo, we finally meet up with our old pal Grease. Before that meeting, we get an introduction to one of our new antagonists, Ravis, leader of the Bellum Raiders. He is searching for some kind of key, and threatening a local who supposedly gave him a fake version of it. Cal gets to play the noble protector role, while learning that Ravis has some past connection with the Jedi. Ravis leaves, but insinuates that they will meet again. We finally get our touching reunion with the core personality of the old crew, and we get some insight into what the old gang is up to. We get some further insight into why Cal and the crew separated, and get a reinforcement of his core values.
We've got plenty of time to fix the madness. You are what I want to talk about.
I'm fine. Sooner we get moving, the better.
And then what, you're gonna go find some trouble with Saw Gerrera?
Maybe. Yeah, one of us has to keep fighting.
That's funny. That's the exact same thing you said the day we all split up.
Yeah, because I... All right, listen. I know you all had your reasons for leaving. But walking away isn't an option for me. I have to hold the line.
And where's that gotten you, Cal? Look, I wish things were different, but you keep losing people. And you yourself said that the Empire's growing stronger every day. Now maybe it's time for you to be something more than a lightsaber. Think about yourself. Settle down, find a home.
What? Home, Grease. There is no home. Home was the Order. It was my teacher. It was everyone I lost. What does their sacrifice mean if I go and I just give up and stick my head in the sand?
I know you were dealt a bad hand, but you gotta take it from me. Somebody who had to learn the hard way. You gotta know when to walk away from a rigged game. Otherwise, you are gonna end up losing something you could never replace.
The seeds are planted for Cal's arc in the game, to go from fighting against something to fighting for something. He, in many ways, needs to come to terms with his personal relationships being a more important investment than trying to control a conflict that is much bigger than himself and his circumstances. The distinction between youthful ambition and planting a foundation of security for those you love is beautifully laid out in this conversation, and adds so much more dimensionality to Grease as a character too. Like the good supportive uncle figure, Grease decides to go with Cal and help him on his journey. A plan is formulated to fix the ship after its crash landing and reunite with the old team. While searching for a part to fix the ship, Cal stumbles upon an ancient temple with a droid from a different era holding what appears to be the key our friend Ravis was looking for. Cal uses the Force to sense that this droid was from the High Republic era. We learn of the droid's former master, a Jedi named Centauri Kree, who entrusts the key with Z, the name of the droid. Cal now finds himself in the middle of an ancient Jedi narrative, giving him something new to explore after losing his rebel crew. Z tells Cal of the forest array that the key goes to, and he has his next step. Bode is also reunited with his Jedi friend, adding to the number of companions making up the new group. Being led to the facility that Z speaks of, we get our first look at Dagan Gera, a Jedi companion of Centauri. He is preserved in a Bacta tank, and is visibly missing an arm. Cal gains exposition on the relationship between these two in yet another Force vision. The two Jedi are on the planet Tanalorr, a safe haven that can only be traveled to by the space anomaly, aka the Abyss, that Cal saw on his approach to Kobo. Notably, in these visions, Dagan still has both arms, and an obvious affection for his counterpart. We learn of Dagan's growing frustration with the Order, as they are called in to inspect the planet for its potential to be a haven for the Jedi. We end this vision of the planet being under attack, but Dagan seems to pause and notice Cal's presence. After being released from the tank, Dagan learns from Cal of the paradigm of the current time, but little does Cal know that Dagan is no longer a servant of the light. His anger against the Jedi due to the abandonment of the place he wanted to thrive feeds his ego. In a passionate rage, he bleeds his crystal and lets the rage take over him. All that remains is selfish ambition. The man Cal thought was a Jedi is one no longer. Ravis makes an appearance in a ship, and the explanation for his search of the key is made known.
Ravis, I should have known you would honor your oath.
This creates a dichotomy of protagonist and antagonist. Dagan decided to let the passive downfall of his order drive him to arrogant passion, whereas the falling of Cal's order led him to seek justice. Both seek freedom, but choose to let their emotions be filtered in different ways. This does set up yet another inner battle Cal must confront later, as the weight of his dreams come crashing down. Dagan is a reflection of Cal in this second chapter, as a character who lost everything and strives to get it back in some way, shape, or form. Interestingly, this same thing happened with Bode in the first chapter. Cal is now surrounded by others who deal with loss in different ways, and it will give him more perspective on how to respond to things outside of his control as the story progresses. Both our protagonist and our antagonist now have the same goal, to reach Tanalorr and use it as a building hub of safety for their new order. In order to make this goal feasible, Cal must reunite with his Jedi Masters on the planet Jedha. On his way to the temple, we are reunited with Cal's very badass female support character, Marin. She is as feisty as ever, and the flirtatious chemistry is immediately rekindled in her and Cal's back and forth. May I take a moment to note that this has been really the only believable romance in Star Wars under the Disney era? It is so refreshing to have that kind of chemistry between characters after the sterile, undeveloped characters of the sequel trilogy, as well as the live-acted television productions. Let's be honest though, this was an effort of a third-party developer more than any input from the people at Disney, and it goes to show, it's not hard to make Star Wars enjoyable, people. Anyway, typical Disney bullshit aside, we get to enjoy the chemistry between these two, all the way up to the meetup with Cere, and it's adorable. Aside from being great in the sexual energy department, it's also a great example of how a romantic partner can reach you with wisdom and insight you might not take to heart from another relationship dynamic. She really exposes the true inner needs of Cal in her conversation with him in the cave.
Look into the fire. It will warm you. Keep you company on dark, lonesome nights, yes? But left unchecked, it will consume everything in its path until there is only ash. But on a cold night, like tonight, a warm fire is perfect. And the company is not so bad either.
I missed you, Marin.
And I you.
This is how you write female characters, Disney. Remember when love was a driving motivator for characters? Okay, enough ranting. But I fucking love the dynamic of vulnerable support these two have that was established in the last game, and then blossoms in this game. Finally, we are reunited with one of our old mentor characters in the form of Master Cordova. Can I say how cute it is that BD1 runs up to him first, like a dog runs up to its old master with joy? The kindness and wisdom he embodies in the first game is given to us in person this time, and we get to see him and Cal interact, which warms my heart as much as Marin's fire warmed Cal's soul last night in the cave. At long last, Cal is reunited with his master. She is overseeing the rebuilding of the Jedi archives, and running a group known as the Hidden Path. The hope to save the Jedi still remains, despite Cal's choice to destroy the holocron, and he realizes that there is even more reason to utilize Tanalorr. The crew is united at last, with a new member to boot. We also get to visit a concept that I and some friends of mine always talked about growing up. A Jedi that uses both a lightsaber and a blaster for ranged combat. This also makes sense that Bode is the one to introduce him to this style, given something we will come back to, but it's also a cool gesture of trust, and like your mercenary companion is giving you a piece of himself as a token of appreciation for being invited into the dynamic. It is also a pretty cool callback to Empire, the movie that definitely was the sequel that embodied Luke's darkest night of the soul in his confrontation with adult consequences. I just wanted to make reference to that, given that the first game's hero's journey is a direct callback to A New Hope. As we move on to the quest to the Shattered Moon, Cal gets his best lightsaber style, as he finds one of the High Republic devices for helping to open the path to Tanalorr. New faces are encountered, and new ancient technology creates obstacles to be overcome, but both devices are finally retrieved. In need of fixing, the devices are given to Master Cordova to put back in working order. The Empire makes an appearance on Jedha, looking to excavate the earth beneath the old Jedi Temple. This is yet another example in these games of the Empire spitting on the peaceful past of the Republic. This is a chance for Cal and Marin to shine in their badass dynamic, in a good old-fashioned fight against the Empire. I also want to point out that she uses the curse Sith Spit.
Sith spit. The way is blocked.
Which is another callback to the Jedi Knight games.
You desire this woman? Well, take her.
Ah, Sith spit.
I have to note that using your newfound force movement to do the platforming in this level is also a lot of fun, and is amplified tenfold when you get to take down the giant drill with your badass girlfriend, but not before sharing a moment, of course. Fuck yeah, man. The teamwork on display here, given their relational development, just made this tag team takedown so freaking awesome. It's great seeing male and female characters work together as equals. Isn't it, Disney? We get deeper insight into Dagan and his companion Ravis, learning that Dagan created the device, and that Ravis must be super freaking old. The Jedi Masters continue to do their thing, but Marin is now back on the Mantis, to be there for Cal and...
It's been far too long since I've made Grease's hair stand on end.
On the return to Kobo, we find out Z has been taken by our antagonists, and the crew must find a way to remedy this whole Dagan situation. We get a return to cockpit banter from the first game on our way back there. I forgot how much I missed the crew dynamic, and it's great to see Grease responding to Marin's jabs again. As we travel through the tar pits and into more Raider territory, we get a bit more quality time with Bode. We get some insight into his perspective on valuing relationships and pursuing happiness, as he tells Cal he should not fear and pursue his attachment to Marin. Moving away from the philosophy of the Jedi is hard for Cal in regards to his ideas of duty, but Bode adds a counterbalance of someone who has gained perspective from his loss. Given the revelations that come later, this is actually a really solid foreshadowing of how values clash and conflict. The two become separated, and Cal must find Dagan by himself. He finds him and Ravis conversing over the plan to get to Tanalorr, as well as their plan to reprogram Z. As Cal tries to set the droid free, he enters his second duel with Dagan. We see that even a disabled Jedi can still wield the power of the Force as an effective weapon. I always love when I see Force users manipulate their blades. It's really not common enough in Star Wars. The battle is fierce, and Cal gets a run for his credits, but luckily Bode is brave enough to assist against even a powerful Force user. Either he is very foolish, or he has some understanding of the Jedi's ability. There is obviously more to him than meets the eye. Regardless, the duo scares off the Dark Jedi, and the fight must continue at another time. Cal must follow Ravis to the Shattered Moon, but it is crawling with repurposed Vulture droids. We get to see even more of Merrin's power as she shields the visibility of the Mantis. Once again, the importance of side characters is front and center in these games. In Cal's trek through the facility, we have yet another vision exposing the breaking point between Dagan and Centauri. She senses the darkness in Dagan's motives, and cuts off his arm to prevent him from taking the device that allows access to Tanalorr. We now have a more complete picture, and the final conflicts with the bad guys can take place. We start with Ravis, but not before understanding a bit about his warrior culture. He was bested by Dagan in battle, and swore an oath of allegiance. He speaks of all the Jedi that he killed, and how he desires only to die in battle, but was subjected to imprisonment for centuries by the Old Order. In order to get the location of the compass key device, Cal must beat Ravis in battle. This proves to be a near impossible task, considering his race can regenerate themselves, not to mention that they are incredibly strong and aggressive. Cal eventually does give Ravis his warrior's death though, and can finally confront Dagan for the rights over access to Tanalorr. We then stop for a moment of introspection. Merrin calls out Cal for brooding, an ironic thing for the closest thing Star Wars has to a goth mommy to be doing. We then get a true insight into Cal's inner struggle, as he gets to be vulnerable yet again with the woman he loves.
I saw Dagan confront Centauri. He was so consumed by Tanalorr that he completely lost his way. Reminds me of my fight with the Empire these last few years. Let's just say I don't want to end up like him.
You are very stubborn, but ambition does not drive you.
I just don't understand why she didn't see the change in him before it was too late.
They dreamed together and suffered together. A shared dream is not so easy to wake from. Is that what troubles you? Losing yourself?
Yeah. A little.
We see the parallel of Cal and Dagan more clearly than ever, but we also see that Cal is receptive to his loved ones in a way that can pull him back towards the light. Obviously, Cal has a harsh conflict ahead, but he has a frame of reference to center him and give him purpose. Cal must make his way through an Imperial post to get to Dagan, and one of the funniest things happens. We get a small moment of self-awareness from the game where we have a boss fight with Rick the Door Technician. This is just icing on the cake to the Jedi Knight game references, yet again humanizing a soldier before you instantly obliterate him. Whoever the dev was that obviously played Outcast in Academy, thank you for this laugh out loud moment. I really got a kick out of it. Now it is time to face the one-armed emo Prince of Darkness. Together with Bode, Cal confronts him at the top of the giant vertical facility. They find him reflecting on the fact that he truly has no one. But he copes with this by convincing himself that
If Centauri had only stood with me, we could have convinced the Council that Tanalorr was worth the sacrifice. Now she's gone. Ravus is gone. The Order is gone, and I am free!
You're not free, Dagon. You're alone.
Why are you here when your true enemy is out there? How could you let the galaxy fall to this unworthy machine of an empire? You think yourself a survivor, but you are a failure!
They haven't beaten us. Not yet.
Now who is blinded by the past? Within the Abyss, the Empire cannot reach us. I will forge these raiders into an elite army led by disciples trained in the Force at my temple. Then when the time is right, I will strike out and cleanse this galaxy with fire.
We see that no other path remains but to put this psycho down. We see the full extent of Dagon's abilities, even down to him creating a new arm out of Force energy. But he is ultimately undone by his anger, after seeing his old Jedi companion dismiss him as totally lost. Now that the key threat has been eliminated, Tanalorr is ripe for the taking. Bode can keep his daughter safe, and Cal can help rebuild order in the galaxy. Knowingly, Cal tells Bode, however, that someone will have to come back to face the Empire at some point. Bode looks less than enthused. Upon the return to Jeddah, we learn that Cordova can fix the compass. This gives the crew some downtime to relax, and gives Cal some time to catch up with his master and contemplate the future.
Why don't you join us on Tanalorr? There's no better home for the Archive or the Hidden Path. But whatever the future holds, we can face it together.
Yes. It's a new path for all of us. Cal, Master T'Pol would be proud of the Jedi you've become.
I had a good teacher.
Everything seems like an uplifting future is on the horizon. But as Cal notices in regards to Bode,
Something's bothering you.
You know me too well, Scrapper. Just thinking about Kata. And people looking after her, but it's always a bit tough when I come back.
When she sees what you've done for her, she'll understand.
I hope so. I was thinking maybe we should go to Tanalorr first. Just make sure it's safe before the others join.
The sooner we get the hidden path set up there, the better. Gotta stay one step ahead of the Empire, right?
Yeah.
Hey. Tomorrow we're gonna have a new home. Couldn't have done that without you, Bode.
Thank you, bro.
Yeah.
something feels strange, like the story is not quite over yet. But what could be left to contend with? At least we get a final decision from Cal about being with Merrin. That took long enough. But hey, if you grew up in a religious celibate cult, you'd have some hang-ups too. Speaking of hang-ups, Cal is in for one of the biggest ones of his life. When the completion of the device is showcased, there is a sudden infiltration of the Empire. The alarm bells ring, but not just in the literal sense.
Imperial forces coming in from all sides. They found us.
Get your people out. I'll hold them off as long as I can. Bode.
I'm really sorry about this.
Bode unexpectedly holds Master Cordova at blaster point, taking the device for himself. Obviously, some things have been off with our pal, but why would he resort to violence against his trusted friends? He shoots the poor old man in cold blood, and drops a thermal detonator to cover his escape. A foundational pillar of the community is now dead, and the darkness begins to surround our main character. The chase ensues and leads the conflict through a large Imperial attack, all the way up to a ruined rooftop. When asked why, Bode says it was for control over the path to his refuge, and he also states that Cal has no time for this fight, and if he wants to protect his family, he better go back. As Cal rushes him, Bode suddenly pushes him back with the Force, revealing that Dagon was not the Jedi Survivor that the game's title was referring to. I would like to pause for a second to say it's about time we got a Force user that also uses a blaster mixed in with his lightsaber style. My friends and I used to talk about why this wasn't more common years ago, and why the only movie to kind of flirt with this was Empire. Also, way to foreshadow this twist of events when Bode gave us the gift of the blaster earlier in the game. That is extremely good visual foreshadowing. Cal is unfortunately forced out of this fight, and much like his life, he comes crashing down, and then falls into darkness. With Cal out of the picture, we get to see his master's mastery of Jedi training. Much like the last game, she is thrust into the fight, but this time, she has a Zen confidence. We get to see her take down a mass of forces with utter concentration and motherly protective instincts. This mastery is about to meet a test in the form of an old force of nature. Once again, Darth Vader comes in at the end of the game to fuck shit up. And boy, have these games done wonders at making him a force to be reckoned with. The power of each hit, the shrugging off of so much damage, the raw desire to kill. He is there to win this fight. However, Cere is no longer a scared runner though. She has grown to face fear with acceptance, and gives her everything to fend off the threat and buy time. But at the cost of her ability to be at the head of this rebirth of the Jedi. The records of her achievements burn all around her as Vader snuffs out yet another leader of the cause. Cal has lost everything, and now he is the last one standing. The last survivor. I have to say how much my heart just broke when BD looks over his old master's lifeless corpse. This is a massive defeat for the family, but for those who remain, they still have each other. Mom and Dad have passed on, but the heir to the legacy lives to take the lead of the new family dynamic. Of course, feeling the weight of this new responsibility, Cal points blame at himself. Luckily, he's not the only one in the family with wisdom.
Why couldn't we sense him?
He deceived us all.
No, I still should have been able to.
Now that's enough! Cal. That's enough, okay? What Bode did, that is on him. It's not on you. It's not on anyone. It's on him. We all know it's a rigged game, but we choose how to play.
It's a shame that there's not a bounty on his head. We could have hunted him with a guild tracker.
In that moment, Cal remembers the locator beacon that could lead them to Bode, and it leads them to an Imperial base on the Nova Garen system. They assume that he went to pick up his daughter, and they proceed to end this once and for all. Cal comes face to face with an Imperial commander in this base, who enlightens Cal about Bode's Imperial sympathies, and gives Cal a nice disguise to get to him. Once Cal gets to Bode's living quarters, we get some more insight on his family dynamic. Bode's daughter Kata enters the scene, packing up for her and Bode's departure. Cal is gentle with her, showing off his Jedi morality in the face of massive stress, and he helps her to find her doll. Bode shows up right when Cal is asking where he is. He then is able to give his story about surviving Order 66 and finding his family.
You were a Jedi?
Yeah.
How'd you survive the Purge?
The Council assigned a few of us to intelligence during the Clone Wars. I used the skills that I learned there to disappear. Went into hiding. Didn't know who to trust. Familiar story? Right. But then I met the most incredible woman. Your mama. One day, Kata and I were out running errands, and I got this message. Don't come home.
Inquisitors.
Looking for me. My wife bought us the time to escape. I knew I couldn't run forever, and so I cut a deal. Then Vic keeps us hidden, as long as Papa stays useful.
We then learn the logic behind Bode's actions.
Tanalor was a way out for both of our families. You were gonna give it to the hidden path. A bunch of strangers.
And you were gonna sacrifice thousands of people to save yourself. We're a monster, Bode.
No. I'm a father.
Obviously, a weak excuse, but it makes sense given what he's been through, to feel like the whole world is against him. He could have compromised, but he chose to make Cal feel the weight of betrayal all over again, just like the Republic had once done to him. Cal really starts to struggle with the dark side now, having progressively less to lose and more anger to fuel himself. He goes on a rampage, cutting through Imperials and door locks to get to his enemy, but not without some ironic intermittent meditation. Ultimately, the one that he loves still centers him, after he practically loses control. Merrin is the new mama bear of the family. I love her character so much as she becomes the rational yet empathetic core of the family. Once they regroup, they revisit the message from Centauri Kree, wondering how to plan their next move, seeing as how Bode has the only known way of getting to Tanalor. The message, however, reveals another way to use the relay on Kobo to open up the path to Tanalor. So, conveniently, there is hope for some closure. I do have to admit that there are a lot of convenient second pathways that open up in this game, but hey, I guess it's an excuse for more level traversal in the few locations that exist in this game. Plot conveniences aside, we get a more complex look at the High Republic's technology and its redundancies. We also get to see the competency of characters from that era, and it makes Centauri a more significant character in the lore of this game. I feel like a good balance of mystery and reveal worked for this type of find the promised land narrative personally. It sure beats the Rise of Skywalker's landmark logic, that's for damn sure. Z helps to assist with the array, and is able to see her master's vision come to realization at last. What happens next is such a visual spectacle. We get to see the Star Wars equivalent of a black hole trip. And boy, what a literal trip. Naturally, it's a close call, but the team makes it. The prize is in front of them at last. Tanalor, a safe haven for the future of the Jedi to survive and evolve into a new era of philosophies. Cal once again gets a chance to show Kata that he can be trusted, once again giving him a fatherly role in the course of this narrative. And as a father-like figure, he enforces accountability. If Bode can't be a responsible father, then Cal will. Bode can't give up control of his passions. The darkness has taken over. The temptation of getting his way has corrupted him, as it did Dagon. They both survived, but they were both never really free. Appropriately, the man disguising his true nature is taken down by the very red herring that he gave Cal, his blaster. The Jedi became a mercenary out of desperation, and ironically, he that lives by the blaster dies by the blaster. Bode is no more, but he has still left behind a very precious treasure. Merrin taking on a maternal role once again summarizes beautifully to Kata some mature wisdom.
How are you feeling?
Better. Thanks.
Good. We should speak. I was not much older than you when I lost my family. For many years I carried this pain. I did not want to feel better.
Why?
I thought if I let go of the pain, I would be letting go of the people I loved. But I was wrong. And one day, I met someone who also lost his family. Together, we found another way to survive. This pain is yours. It is part of you.
When my mother died, it changed Papa. And me too, I guess.
Yes. But it does not have to define you. And you must not let it consume you.
I can't think of a more inspirational way to talk about growing into a grown-ass adult in a healthy way, while highlighting the mistakes one can make while dealing with pain and loss. Ultimately, the themes of this game are how one comes to terms with loss. Cal has already lost so much, and had to grow in his own hero's journey out of that loss. But now he has grown old enough to have to bury his parents and start a family of his own.
You saved my life on Brock.
The crushing responsibility of losing the ones that guided you.
You let me walk my own path when I needed to.
And realizing you are the legacy of their sacrifice.
You taught me what it truly means to be a Jedi. Now you're gone. We will continue your legacy, Seer. We will build something that can outlast the Empire. I promise you that. I promise. But I'm scared. I almost lost myself. I don't know if I'm ready.
The title of the game misled us all. The Jedi Survivor wasn't Dagon, and it wasn't Bode. The one who survived everything was the one we've been following all this time, our strong survivor, bound to his new legacy, the one and only Cal Kestis.
Guide her through the darkness.
Thank you everyone for listening to me digest this story. I think it's a wonderful progression of the narrative that really tackles many parts of maturity in a relatable and sincere way. I can confidently say for the first time in a while that I'm actually really excited to see more development for a Star Wars product in the future, which is not a common thing these days. This game also made the High Republic something mature, and not this stupid looking shit, so that's another thing that these games make better in relation to Disney Star Wars. And it was of course a love letter to previous Star Wars games, which I really appreciate. If you like my take on this, please like and subscribe so we can make this video blow up as much as the first one did last year. And comment what you enjoyed about Jedi Survivor and where you would like to see the future of this series go. Once again, thank you for coming to the Dutch Ritz party.